Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have more ridiculously inaccurate polling via our good friends over at Quinnipiac, and it's causing liberals to do a premature circle jerk victory lap on X, where they're saying, oh, Republicans are coping. Let's actually take a look at these internal numbers and see that Republicans have just destroyed like 3 or 4 polls that just came out today as being totally inaccurate based on all of the internal numbers. We know Quinnipiac, I talked about this yesterday, they were the #1 most inaccurate pollster. That was by 538. They said that in their own grades. They said Quinnipiac, the biggest margin of miss, of error, and that's liberal 538 saying it. So let's see. Quinnipiac has Harris up by 5 in Pennsylvania, up by 5 in Michigan, and then up by 1 in Wisconsin. So they did the big 3, the Rust Belt states, and obviously in a vacuum, those look like great numbers for Harris, but we know Quinnipiac and how inaccurate they are, and also just the internal numbers that we're going to show, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. They just make absolutely no sense. We've also got our good friends at YouGov, who were graded the 4th most inaccurate pollster in 2020. They've got Harris up by 4. But this is why, Quinnipiac, it'd be one thing if they adjusted their methodology, and maybe they adjusted it slightly, but you'll see with the internals it's how bad it is. Quinnipiac's 2020 scorecard, the final poll, these were all against Trump. Pennsylvania, virtually 6 points polling error, underestimating Trump. Nationally, they underestimated Trump by 6.5 points. In Ohio, they underestimated Trump by 13 points. This is not a September poll. This is their final poll. They had Biden winning the state of Ohio. Their final poll in 2020. They underestimated Trump by 13. Florida, they underestimated Trump by 10.5. Texas by 4.5. Georgia by basically 4, and that's not including North Carolina, which was basically 3.5. And then let's actually dig into these numbers, looking at Quinnipiac's polling, and you can immediately spot the error. Trump is not losing seniors by 9. He's not winning whites by just 4. So just think about that. In this poll, you can see it has Kamala Harris winning seniors 53% to 44%. Now, people were saying Biden might win seniors by 1 or 2 points because of how old Biden is and the fact that he's relatable. There is no shot in hell that Kamala Harris wins seniors, let alone wins them by 9 points. The rough estimate right now would be Trump winning seniors by 7 to 9 points. So that's a polling error of like 18 points amongst seniors. That's how bad these polls are. They're saying Harris is going to win the over 65 vote by 9 points. She's basically got no chance of winning it, but they've got her winning it by 9. She's probably going to lose it by 9. And they take these polls, and this is a Pennsylvania poll that has her up by 5, and it gets put into Real Clear Politics, and it sets all the narratives. And you do have to start wondering with all these polls and how ridiculously biased they're being if they're setting up for a potential, well, if Trump ends up dying, they're just going to say he wasn't going to win anyways. I mean, look at the polls. That's why you have to call these polls out and how ridiculous they are and how biased they are. You can see the white vote. Liberals have spent the last 4 years basically calling white people demons, but no, they're going to basically tie in the white vote. Yeah, sure. 51 to 47. Trump's going to win the white vote by like 10 or 11 at least, you would think, or maybe at least 8 or 9, but 4 is ridiculous. That's easily a 4 to 6 point shift to Trump. That's in Pennsylvania. Yeah, there's just a narrative around this. There is no way this poll should have went out. You're oversampling elder Democrats if you have Harris winning people 65 and older by 9. There's no other way to spin that. That is what it is. And you look at the scorecards, 2014 to 2022, you can see all of the error, all of the bias. Just looking at 2020 in general, you've got all of the bias here going against Trump. Quinnipiac, Monmouth. Remember Monmouth in their poll that came out yesterday that oversampled Dems by like 32. I'm not kidding. If you include the moderate Dems and the normal liberals, it oversampled Dems by like 30, and they put it out and it had her up by 5 nationally. It's unbelievable how much they manipulate this stuff. CNN, NBC News, ABC, Fox News even, Reuters, they've been terrible. Emerson was at least, they were at least a little bit more. But like then you've got all these Republican pollsters. Even Rasmussen overestimated Democrats in 2020. The #1 thing liberals are saying about the polls now is that Rasmussen is oh, they're the Republican pollster. Then why did they overestimate the Democrats? And they were one of the more accurate polls for sure in 2020, but still, even they overestimated the Democrats in 2020. But now they're this ridiculous Republican pollster. It doesn't add up. Look at all of this. That's 2020. Look at 2016. You've got the same thing. Although, to be honest, it wasn't nearly as bad as 2020, but you've still got Monmouth. You've got, Quinnipiac, 93% error favoring Democrats. I mean, these are the same polls we're talking about that we're seeing now that they're referencing YouGov. What was YouGov in 2020? I'm sure YouGov was probably 100% overestimating Dems, 88%, 13%. That doesn't even add up to 100, but you understand the point. All right, so these are ridiculously inaccurate polls. You can tell by looking at the internal numbers. They're oversampling Dems. Dems are having a field day. They're throwing parties over polls that just do not make sense. There is no way Donald Trump is only going to win white people by 4 points. That makes no sense. And there is no way that Donald Trump is going to lose seniors by 9. He'll probably win them by 9. That's an 18-point polling error. And that just goes to show you they oversampled Democratic seniors significantly to get those numbers. I'm not, who knows whether they do it on purpose or not, but it's clear a narrative is being set. They're trying to say that, oh, she's going to win for sure. I think they got triggered by the debate. They thought she was going to win. And we see all the headlines after the debate. Harris wins. Harris wins. You look at the actual polls among independent people. They liked Trump a little bit more than Harris, and even CNN came out and said that Harris had basically no policy in that entire debate, and now she's done, a few interviews, and she's a total train wreck. She can't talk. She says the same 4 things over and over again. So people are starting to wake up. Insider Advantage, one of the most accurate pollsters in 2020. All of these top Republicans were very accurate in 2020 compared to the stuff that we're supposed to trust, like the New York Times, like Fox News, which is not Republican bias when it comes to their polls. If anything, they're Democratic bias, or they overestimate Democrats, at least recently in the last few election cycles. And then they say, oh, but 2022 was slanted to the right. Well, number one, it's an apples to oranges comparison. Trump was not on the ballot in 2022. It's totally different. You have to compare the years where Trump was a candidate, which would have been 2020 and 2016. 2022 was a midterm. And now even liberal pollsters are saying 2022 was really not a bad miss by pollsters. They had the generic ballot vote plus 2.8 for Republicans, and then they won it by 2.3, or it was something like that. It was within 0.5. Now, state by state, sure, there were some issues and there were some errors, but they act like there was there's this huge error that was pro-Republican in 2022. Number one, you cannot compare midterms to a general election, especially with Trump, being on the ballot now and how much of a force he is and how many people he gets to go out and vote for him and also against him. I agree, also against him, but just in general, that's an apples to oranges comparison. And also the polls it's not like, oh, they totally overestimated Republicans. They had Republicans winning the generic popular vote by like 2.8. They won it by 2.3. And that was a good year for pollsters in terms of polling. It was not some crazy, oh, they way overestimated Trump like we're seeing with these polls and how they did in 2020, where Quinnipiac is getting Ohio wrong in their final poll by 13 points. They got Biden winning that state in 2020. And we're supposed to believe their numbers now when they come out and they say, I think that's good news for Trump that Quinnipiac has him down by 5 if you adjust for their error. He's really up by like 1 or 2 when you adjust to their error. And also just looking at this, you've got white people. There's no way white people only vote for Trump at, +4. That is just completely inaccurate. And you've also got the over 65. There's no way of that either. So, you can see also this. People are just calling these things out. Unweighted, +19 for Dems. 5, and then when you weight it, it's +5 for Dems. Take a look at this. What does this have? Oh, it's got Harris up by 5. See, now all these polls are coming out saying Harris leads by 4 or 5 in the national popular vote. And this is the narrative they're trying to create. Oh, she's definitely up. She's definitely up. Well, yes, it's because of polling bias and oversampling of Dems. When you look at the internal numbers, it's complete crap. All of the most accurate pollsters in 2020 have Trump winning this, or with like a 60 to 65% chance to win if you adjust it. That's why Nate Silver, people like him, they know this. That's why they're adjusting it, and they're not taking into account these crap Quinnipiac polls when you look at their internals, and it's like, wait a second, this makes no sense. There was a poll yesterday that came out that said Trump was only going to win men by like 4 or 5 points. It's unbelievable. These things are just not going to happen. It doesn't make, and when you get like, we saw a poll earlier today from Gallup. The poll looked completely believable. It had Harris like -7 in terms of approval. It had Trump like -6. It was believable. That's believable based on recent polling averages. But stuff like this is not believable. They're trying to manipulate it and say, oh, Harris very well might win the popular vote by a point or two. She's not winning it by 5 points. She's not winning it by more than Biden. That is absurd. And that is something that's just not going to happen. But it's almost like they're trying to create this narrative like, oh, she's so far ahead. If Trump gets killed, he was going to lose anyways. Imagine they start that narrative. Now, we obviously hope everything's, nothing happens to Trump. But it seems like there's so much going on right now. And these polls are certainly not helping with how biased they are. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.